हाँ वेब 3.0
Yeah, so we'll begin. Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Charity Madan, and I'm an executive at the Economics Club IIT Delhi. I have with me Pushpin Divya from the team who will moderate the event today. As we all know, the Trist is one of the biggest technical fests of North India. I'm incredibly delighted to welcome you all to our very first pre-fest event of Trist on Web3. Today, we'll learn and explore the future of Metaverse in India, targeting on how one can invest and earn through it. We have with us Mr. Anshul Rustaggi. Mr. Rustaggi graduated from IIT Delhi in 2001 with a degree in chemical engineering. He also is an alumni of IIM Bangalore. He worked at one of the biggest hedge funds in the world called Stark Investments. He's the founder of Totality Group, which is a Web3 gaming company that is currently working on an NFT gaming universe called ZionVerse. He also is an active investor in NFTs and encourages people to do the same. So, without any further ado, we'll begin with the discussion. I request the the attendees that you can pitch your questions in the chat, and we'll take them up at the end of the session as we sit for a Q&A. So, hi, sir.
Hi, Jayati, and hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Really excited to see the curiosity around Web3 and really looking forward to this conversation.
Great, sir. So to start with, you tell us something about your IIT days and your days at IIMs. As you know, there are a lot of networking opportunities at such colleges. So how did it all help you shape your career as you move forward?
Sure. Look, I think like my father is also from IIT Delhi, so for me the path was pretty much that I wanted to get into that footsteps. Also, probably being a very competitive person, I really wanted to just sort of keep doing better than what benchmarks had been laid for me, and that is what really pushed me to get through IIT Delhi. I had a really enjoyable 4 years at IIT. Most of my best friends are from IIT Delhi as well. And then went to IIM Bangalore, great professional network at IIM Bangalore, great alumni network at IIT Delhi. One thing I've always seen is, irrespective of the batch you are from, if you reach out to a super senior, a senior, a junior, a not junior because it has been a while since I graduated from IIT Delhi, people are extremely helpful. There's a very strong connect in the IIT Delhi alumni network itself, and everyone is all over the world doing all sorts of different things. And by and large, most people are doing really well. So I think the great part for all of you as well is you have that access to that network, and there is an instant sort of emotional connection when you say that you are from IIT Delhi, right? I think that connection is enhanced even more if you belong to the same hostel. Um, and I think there is a further sort of emotional connect if you are from the same hostel. I was at Shivalik. That was the first batch of undergrads who were actually started to come into the Shivalik hostel. So yeah, like definitely a great network to tap into. The brand, knowing the right people, obviously going through the competition to enter into IIT, obviously JE, definitely puts you in a really good standing. Obviously not going through or just being from a branded place does not give you any surety of success, but it definitely opens the network. You already have the right skill set to achieve things because you have diligence, you have a threshold amount of intelligence, and every company, every partner that you would get in future for business, even VCs, etc., will definitely look at that and definitely keep valuing that throughout your life, right? So I do feel, whether we like it or not, that where you are from in college probably stays with you all your life itself, right? Like you introduced me, obviously I'm from IIT Delhi, but as others will also introduce me, they will say I am from IIT Delhi. So that's something to be proud of for all of us here.
Yeah, right. So, what motivated you to get into the Web3 space? And also tell us something about your interest in gaming. Like, where did it come from? Was it from IIT or IIM during the graduation period? So, how did you all get into this?
Sure. So see, my love for gaming really started when I was a kid. So my dad used to travel for work. He was lucky that even when I was really young, he was able to travel to different parts of the world. He actually got me an Atari. That was actually my first console, and I really fell in love with sort of gaming then when I was really a kid. I owe my weak eyesight and spectacles to actually the love of gaming from a really young age, because I have done all sorts of poses of playing the game upside down and whatever, and I would not leave the console at all. And I think I fell in love with gaming because I'm a curious person by nature, and what I loved about gaming is that apart from being immersive, right, there was always this sense that every game has a design, and obviously at that time games were predominantly you versus the computer, right? So the angle wasn't really as much of peer-to-peer sort of games, because that didn't exist when I started gaming. And the idea was always to figure out what that design is and how to overcome and beat the computer, right? So that was just the competitiveness in me, which was really getting fulfilled in gaming. In IIT, I used to play a lot of Age of Empire. In fact, in IIM, I played a lot of Quake 3D. So we had, I would say 50 to 60 people in our IIM Bangalore batch who were very interested in Quake 3D, and all of us would compete on LAN, particularly when there would be exams. The night before the exam and right after the exam, actually would be the highest amount of people playing Quake 3D. And then there would also be competition between batches, right? IIM has obviously only two-year course, so two batches. And I was lucky enough that I had a more powerful computer when I entered, and I ended up beating the person who was supposed to be the best in the top batch. So that also, helps you, give you a certain amount of following, like, oh, this guy beat this guy in Quake 3D, oh, what is happening? And so, gaming has always been sort of a very intricate part of what I do. So obviously from console gaming to PC to back to console when PlayStation and Xbox became popular. And I have to very proudly say that I'm now more into mobile gaming. I've said this many times. I love Clash of Clans. I've been playing Clash of Clans for a decade. I still play. I was actually just doing a couple of attacks just before I jumped onto this call as well. So what I love about these bite-sized, planning is that when you get your 5 minutes, it takes 3 minutes to do one Clash of Clan attack. So it's a perfect sort of way for you to get in and keep doing it whenever you find these little moments of time. What encouraged me to do Web3. So I think, see, like overall, I would say I've had my beginning of my career has been very conventional, right? So like I joined IIT, like I said, because my father is from IIT Delhi as well. My first cousin went to IIT Kanpur. So for me, it was more like that competitiveness that I need to get through because they had kind of set the benchmark, and I wanted to be at that benchmark at the top schools as well. Went to do, MBA from IIM Bangalore right after IIT. I had a job in Capital One from IIT, and at that point, I was like, oh, I'd never want to leave India, right? And so I decided to go for MBA rather than going for the job. And as it happened, from IIM, I went to London for the next decade. Once I came back to India, that's when I really started thinking that, now I really want to do what I love, right? So I went back to college, did my law full time from 2013 to 2016 from Delhi University. So I experienced college life again, had a lot of fun. And the entrepreneurial journey, see, a lot of my batchmates from IIT who are in India are either entrepreneurs, and a lot of big companies have come from our IIT Delhi batch as well. Kar Dekho founder is from 2001. 1MG Prashant Tandon is from 2001. Gaurav Agarwal is from our batch as well. So a lot of companies came from our batch, and a lot of people, when I talk to them, right, like the group is all about startups and how exciting it is and how difficult it is. So it just felt like, there is a lot of, the view is that there is a lot of autonomy that you get, right? Like you are going to suddenly become master of your own destiny, and you get to work on really interesting problems, and it is a very dynamic problem to solve. So everything just attracted me towards entrepreneurship, and that's why I took the plunge in 2016. Web3 to me was, in apart from what I've already said, in particular was very interesting because I have been playing Roblox for 5 years with my niece in Canada, and in US and Canada, for people who do not know Roblox, between the age group of 9 to 12, there is a 85% penetration of Roblox. So Roblox is like a Minecraft-like user-generated game platform. It has around, I think, 150 million users who use it every month, right? And to me, it was very clear that gaming is actually becoming the social network, right? So we see that in Minecraft, in Roblox, in Clash of Clans. I really believe it. Even though the scale of Clash of Clans is nothing compared to Roblox, we saw that in PUBG. See it in Fortnite. And so the evolution of the social network from what we had for Facebook, which is more text based, Instagram, which was more pictures, TikTok, which is more video, the natural evolution was going to be gaming, right? And games themselves focus a lot more on immersion, rather than making it more social, right? So unless you are a gamer, it's very difficult for you to come on PUBG and say, hey, I'm just here to socialize. Some people do that, right? But the barrier to sort of play is very high, right? Like I always joke that the reason I don't enjoy console gaming now is it almost looks like all my 10 fingers, my mouth, my nose, everything has to be involved because the combinations and how hardcore they have made it is just crazy from what it was even 5 years ago, right? So the barrier, the skill barrier it has increased a lot for very immersive gaming, right? So we really need to bring it down a little bit to make it mass. And then the other thing about Web3 in addition, apart from immersion, is ownership, right? So what I loved is that suddenly we have now truly given ownership to all the users and the community. And what that ownership brings, which I value a lot, is autonomy. Because as an owner, now I choose how I can interact with the system. What can I do with my data, with my goods, with my currency? And also because you are an owner, you are very incentivized to do all positive things for the community, right? So you now have a very very good incentive to be a good actor for a really long time, which benefits the community. And since everyone is incentivized to be a good actor, the community actually benefits much faster, ecosystem grows much faster, and it's a virtuous cycle that actually occurs in a much faster manner than it has ever occurred. So those were really the fundamental pillars of attracting me towards the space. Um, sorry, I think you're on mute.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Beginning about, so thank you. So just talking about Web3, would you like to just give an insight to our audience about what Web3 is? How is it different from Web2, and what potential it holds in framing the future on the internet?
So, see, I think the way we have to think about it is this is the natural evolution that's actually going to happen, right? I'm sure people who have looked at Web3, or maybe for people who haven't, maybe I'll just give a quick overview. So, internet came in the 90s. From the middle of 90s, call it to 2004, was the era of Web 1, where we were really accessing the internet as a means of communication only. As in just more means of reading information rather than a two-way communication. So it was websites, it was email predominantly, where someone was writing some messages and it was broadcasted over the internet. So it was really reducing only the friction part of it, and there was a thriving peer-to-peer creation, but limited to certain people. Web 2 really started from 2003-4 with the likes of coming on the app, where you could app as well as on the web, where you could really create content, right? Whether that's liking, commenting, creating your own posts, but you could dynamically interact with content, and it'll show more or less real time to everybody at the same point of time, right? So you suddenly opened a two-way communication channel and also gave the ability for people to start creating. And what mobile apps were able to do within that web 2, so over the last sort of 5 6 years in particular, with Snapchat and TikTok, they have really made user tools, which make it very easy for you to create things, right? So the world of YouTube was more two-way communication but distribution, because they didn't really help you to create videos. But what TikTok was able to do, or one of the things it's really good at, is that they made an average person amazing at creating videos, right? So what you could not have imagined doing 10 years before, that, oh, how would I edit? How would I add these special effects? Unless you knew Premiere Pro, Adobe, or some other softwares, very tough for you to actually do it. They took away that skill level completely and let the AI, machines, computer vision do all the hard work, and gave it to you at a tap of a button, right? So great revolution there. And Web3 now is taking all those elements, right? So let's not think that any of those elements are going away. It's taking those elements and giving you the ownership, giving you the immersion, right? And hence I'm saying it's the natural evolution to what is going to happen, right? So when we say it's the future of internet, it's not as if mobile apps are going to stop and we're going to suddenly come to a world we do not know about. Like, I don't think most people used to talk about web 1 to web 2 as much as they talk today, because we are now moving to web 3. Like, our move from web 1 to web 2 was predominantly seamless, right? Today it almost seems like, how could we ever live without WhatsApp, right? Like when I was doing my MBA, I couldn't even imagine how people did MBAs without Google search, right? Like how, like who used to go into library to look at index cards to find information? Like it really blew my mind. Like how could you even do it, right? Today, it almost seems like how could people even talk to each other without WhatsApp, right? Like what world were we living in? Like I have come from that world where there was no WhatsApp, right? So I can tell you, we used to communicate at that point of time as well. And similarly, Web3 will be a very seamless transition, right? 6, 7, maybe 10 years down the line, we'll be talking about, oh, I can't even imagine that people used to just come on this platform and read text. I mean, how boring, right? Like, why didn't they do it in a more immersive manner? And why did they give control to all these other companies to do whatever they wanted with their data? That sounds so stupid, right? So once the reality actually comes and the future is created, it seems pretty stupid what we were doing in the past, right? But we could not have come to Web3 without going through the transition of Web2, particularly making creation easy and also making understanding UI UX in particular, which is user interface and user experience, as well as the design aspect as to how we um, structure a flow for the user, right? And an important part of this is see Second Life, which is probably the first application that came, which is probably the closest to how metaverse is what people think, came a decade back, right? It really talked about digital twins, your virtual life, your virtual avatars. And but what Second Life did is it actually gave you a platform and technology to enable it, right? And then they left it for the people. And then what happened is that suddenly people got a way to become a virtual avatar and anonymous, and the freedom to do anything, right? And so now you have to understand you're anonymous, you have freedom, and you don't have any barriers. So what ended up happening is we went to what we were not uh, allowed to do that much in real life, which is it just became a platform for, like for lack of better words, sensual pleasures, right? and and so what we learned in web 2 is if we want a particular outcome, we'll also have to incentivize people towards that outcome. We can't just leave it open and expect that that outcome will just emerge from nowhere, right? Which is why this integration of tokenomics helps a lot, right? So the last thing I'll say, or not the last thing, but one more thing I'll add with web3 is so far we have seen layers of finance and commerce as a different layer than the layers of interaction that we do, right? So the whole mantra was, oh, hey, let's make a social network. Once everyone comes, we will figure out how to make money out of it, right? Because it almost felt like making money and what people do are two separate things, right? And even when we discuss, like, our parents' generation, the idea was, oh, you do a job to earn money, and then what you do on weekends and after work is what you do for that you love. That's already changed now, right? Like whether you do a startup, whether you are a freelancer or you work with another company or whatever you do, or you are an entrepreneur, you combine what you love with the money that you make, right? Similarly, with Web3, we are combining finance from the very beginning of the ecosystem, right? So it's an integrated part of it from the very beginning. So when we talk about everything in tokens and what incentives I will get from the very beginning, we are saying that this monetization, tokenomics, finance, commerce part is an integral part, and we got to tackle it at the very beginning itself. So this is also a very big change from how we have tackled the digital economy in particular so far.
Yeah, right. As we all know, like you are an active investor in NFTs. So when we, align ourselves towards the world of crypto, its applications in the virtual world, we always come up to discussions about NFTs, and they're very hyped. And before we, jump to the major concerns and interests people have regarding them, could you just give a brief about what NFTs actually are, and what domains do you think NFTs could dominate in the near future?
All right. So I'll first tackle what I believe NFTs are, and then I'll also tackle what you said about the hype and what most people think they are, right? So NFTs, non-fungible tokens, are a great technology layer for any personalized digital data or information, right? And when I say that, I'm using a very broad term consciously to say that look, what your social network is, i.e., who are the people you're closest to digitally, the next layer, the next layer, the next layer is actually will be an NFT in the future, right? The Google search you do so that they personalize the results, that data is an NFT. The way you order in Zomato is an NFT. The land you will own digitally will be an NFT, is an NFT already. The coins you own, even though they are fungible, your entire wallet and what transactions you have done is an NFT, etc., etc. Right? So the point being that NFT is nothing but your layer for the digital world, where anything which is personal to you and hence unique to you is going to be an NFT, because what it is for me will always be different from what it is for someone else, right? So you can consider it like your like digital DNA, but it's a data driven sort of DNA, right? And we are leaving those data imprints everywhere. With every interaction that we do in the digital world, we are sort of leaving our own digital DNA. And the beauty about having that as an NFT is it gives you the autonomy now, right? Whether you want to sell that data like Brave is doing. Brave browser is saying if you see ads, we'll give you some tokens for sharing your data and your time, right? What I could do tomorrow is I could say that if there is a Zomato equivalent of Web3 and Swiggy, I could say, my pizza data, give it to Zomato, and my North Indian data, give it to Swiggy, because that's how I would like to interact with the systems, right? Um, Also, if you remember WhatsApp versus Signal, when a privacy concern came on WhatsApp, a lot of people, including me, moved to Signal. We found that, well, the network didn't move to Signal. So we had to have both WhatsApp and Signal. So we all, at least I have gone back to WhatsApp. Signal is now really dead for me. Happened with tons of people, if not all the people. But in the Web3 world, my network would have moved with me. I could interact with that entire network using Signal, and maybe all of you were still on WhatsApp. It should have been okay. So this permissionless move will only be enabled once these NFTs are enabled for you to carry that data over with you, right? So that's what NFTs are. They are your basically digital identity slash data DNA slash personalized data, however you want to look at it. What they have become, because obviously, like being a student of history, and a lot of you will be looking at economics as well. Some of you are interested to read this book called Panics, Manias, and Crashes by Charles Kindleberger. Right? It actually talks about all sorts of bubbles in history, and there was a tulip bubble as an example, right, where one bulb of tulip, people were willing to sell their entire house and cows and farm for getting one bulb of a tulip flower, right? And now you read about it, it's like, how insane is this, right? Who the hell was it in their mind buying one flower bud and selling your field and cows and everything and your house? But that's what happens, right? We are social animals. If everyone is doing something, there is a safety in numbers, and we tend to go with that same thing. So what NFTs have become right now is a way to speculate on something that looks something, right? Like I won't even say it looks great, right? Like maybe some people relate to CryptoPunk's art or Bored Ape, but it is really today a status symbol, right? And the reason that it's worth millions of dollars is, see, being a social animal is innate to us, right? Which means a society is innate, which means social status is something a lot of people will crave, right? And to attain social status in general has been very, like, you have to do a lot of work, right? Like you have to be a great doctor for many years to get that status, right? Now suddenly in the Web3 world, because there is anonymity, owning a CryptoPunk will give you social status. So now instead of doing the work, it's substituted with money, and people have a lot of money, right? So now you are giving something to them which they can buy from money. The value is obviously going to rise. So if the view is that CryptoPunk is going to remain a social status and Web3 plus Web3 adoption is going to increase, there's no reason why a CryptoPunk can't even be 100 million, right? But it is pure speculation, right? Like that's what I'm saying. That's why I was mentioning about the bubble part. Is the only way you make money is if someone else believes and wants it more than you want it, and hence they pay even a higher price, right? So it's pure, like obviously that happens with every asset, right? That happens with stock markets as well. But there is also still some underlying intrinsic value in a stock, right? Like I know, like now today, most stocks don't sell on discounted cash flows. That era is over, and maybe we come back to that era at some point. But like there is at least some element of the discounted cash flow plus future value. today NFTs are most NFTs are 100% future value / speculative value only, right? Which is why you also see this massive fluctuation in prices. The same is also true for cryptocurrencies, right? Does Bitcoin have true intrinsic value? Absolutely, right? It does. It's proven to be a store of value. It's a benchmark for blockchains, a benchmark for cryptocurrency, probably one of the hardest proof of work out there. So someone who needs to protect some amount of digital data or transaction, which has to have the best security possible for validating Bitcoin, is it right? It has some value, but well, can it go to $1 million, or is it worth $1 million, or is it worth $1 today? Like a lot of frameworks, not very easy to say because the intrinsic value yet isn't as proven. So it's all based on what will happen 5 years from now and 10 years from now only. So that's the reason there is the hype in NFTs, also in cryptocurrency, and also the fluctuation, because it's more future related than anything to be intrinsic plus future.
Yes. Also, sir, like you've heard about so many internet scams, that involve money loss. There've been incorporation of crypto and NFT also in the scene. Don't you think that's just giving better opportunity to criminals, or is it safe? Like, what insight do you have in this? Is it?
Yeah, so see, my view is always that like technology is a tool, right? Like
Yeah.
creating weapons was a tool. When we looked at atomic energy, it was a tool. Now, obviously, in history we decided to use atomic energy to create bombs, and we bombed Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and we went through a major nuclear cold war, and we have quietened it down now with policy and understanding. So it's a tool, right? It can be used in any way. The other part why it is very susceptible to also scams is two, right? A, it's a new technology, so government regulations will take time to catch up because it's very new. Things are changing every day, literally, right? And the other part is it's very decentralized, right? So because it's decentralized. All right, somebody is getting rasgullas. Very jealous. So I think what I was saying is, the one thing we have to really understand is that because there is decentralization and we cannot remove ownership from the liabilities of being an owner, right? So what we are used to for hundreds, if not thousands of years is that, oh yeah, the government protects us, the police protects us, some authority like in IIT Delhi, the dean will form the rules, and my safety is in the hand of the dean and security head of rendezvous. They need to come and protect us, etc. Right? So we naturally come and say, ownership, I'll take the decisions. But listen, like if something bad happens, then like why is the government not doing something? Why is blah 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 not protecting me, etc. Right? So like in Spider-Man, they always say, with great power comes great responsibility. This is the flip side of ownership, right? So if you are an owner, you are now meant to do your own research to figure out whether you want to own this particular digital asset, right? And do the work that is this something that is like good for you, or you believe in it, etc. Right? So that's decentralization and ownership combined with lack of regulation because it's new, combined with the speculation, because suddenly in crypto world, right, I come from the finance world where even making today 15 to 20% is a big deal, right? But the crypto world is like, if I make anything less than 10 times, right, 1000%, it's just so boring, right? Like who works for 30-40% a year returns, right? In the finance world, it's unheard of, right? 30-40% returns, like crazy good, right? But in crypto, people are like, yeah, I made 10x in 2 days. I bought this token or NFT, it went up 50x, 1000x returns. And because there is this speculation, like think about it, right? If you have a potential to make 100x, right? You need to get one trade right out of 100 to get back your money. And that is very like now you start feeling like, how stupid can I be, right? Like even randomness should play some part and I should make some money, right? So just start investing in whatever comes. And which is why we also have this FOMO driven speculative bubble that suddenly happens in certain coins. That also makes it more more susceptible to sort of scams, because you kind of put your due diligence powers down to just get into an asset.
Yeah, yes, sir. So from yeah, I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are.
So like from here, sir, Divya will take over and we'll discuss about metaverse in general, like the
Sure.
target of today. So yeah, over to Divya.
Thanks, Jyoti. Hi, sir. So from here, we're gonna take the part of metaverse, the most crucial part, which we believe is of the session. And so, as fancy as it sounds, we believe that there is a whole complex meaning and explanation to what metaverse is, rather than just being a virtual world. So, could you explain what metaverse exactly is and what impactful changes can it bring?
Sure. So I think one part, like I've already said, clearly the metaverse is more about immersion. So we have talked about it. A lot of people talk about it. Maybe if there are some parts where we talk about how it will get manifested, I believe it will still be mobile first rather than being VR like people see in Ready Player One, or what Meta or slash Facebook is pushing the world will look like. I highly doubt that that's the way it'll occur. But the metaverse is a little more immersive, right? And when we say immersive, games are already are very immersive because they are interaction driven, right? Now today, when you see a TikTok video, etc., your interactions are limited to liking it, sharing it, commenting on it, right? But suddenly now imagine that you have taken the amount of interaction you're doing up by tenfolds like you have in games. So rather than being just a broadcast experience, which TikTok and YouTube primarily are, you are now interacting with a fewer group of people, but it's a high level of interaction. That itself makes it very immersive. So that's one angle, that metaverse will be a lot more immersive, right? We have already talked about sort of ownership, etc. And because it's permissionless, what's going to happen is, or at least my view is, that you're going to see a conversion, right? So, this whole concept that we have had in Web 2 of super apps, which have done well in China, but neither in the US nor in India have we seen truly any super app ecosystem come up, is that there is now a potential that in the metaverse, actually, that happens, right? Why? Because we already know that Facebook and social networks are really powerful, right? Once you have created Delhi, Bombay, it's very difficult for you to displace a city like that, because that network is in effect and it's self-sustainable and it'll keep growing. Similarly, for a company like a Facebook or an Instagram, once the network effect isn't kicked, it's very tough to break it, right? Like I said, what we have had with these platforms is the network and the economy, or finance and commerce, were two separate parallel systems. With Web3, because they're now going to be combined, what we're going to see is like what super app idea was. So you will game through these platforms, you will build your own digital houses, digital gardens, digital pets on these platforms. Conversations like these will happen through metaverses, but also businesses like Amazon, HSBC Interaction, ICICI Bank, you paying your bills, all of that also happens through the metaverse, right? Because the rails to build this is already present, right? One company won't build it. You will still maybe paying through a Paytm or a phone pay, but they will actually have that presence in that metaverse itself, so that like your life will become more convenient digitally to come to a particular metaverse. You like it, you like the art, you like the people you meet, you like the way you can interact there, and you will be fulfilling all your digital needs through that one particular place. So I do think that a difference would be that there is potentially going to be a lot more convergence of these worlds, even though you will have the choice to move from one metaverse to the other. Out of convenience, once we like something, we don't like to keep taking that decision again and again and again, right? So, and because our network would already be formed in one place, it will be tough for you to keep moving to other networks, because people will be like, yeah, we can interact with you from there, but why aren't you here with us doing the exact same things we are doing? So yeah, that's what I believe, the metaverse, how it will get manifested in the future.
So, as most of the crowd that is attending this meet is more interested towards investing, and so basically with the incoming of this new idea of metaverse, so how should one invest in metaverse, and how reliable is it? Is it safe, or is it just hype?
Okay. So look, obviously Metaverse has very different investment options. There are, like I just read today that very, very big, large companies which are doing ETFs and mutual funds are also going to launch Metaverse ETFs. And there are a few launch which invest in companies like Roblox or Nvidia or Apple to look at metaverses. There are some which will invest in metaverse coins like Mana for Decentraland, AXS for Axie Infinity, etc. Um, However, or you could invest in NFT projects and buy the NFTs directly, etc. However, what I'll say is like what you have to really understand is, are you betting on any intrinsic value, or is this still a complete future value bet, right? By and large, like 99.99% of these bets are only future value driven. So the question you need to ask yourself is there an insight you have to see that this ecosystem is going to grow, right? And can you test that to make sure that you have had that sustainable, what is that sustainable advantage you have to figure out compared to everyone else, that I believe that this ecosystem is in its early stages. Here are the 3 4 reasons that it'll grow, and then I keep taking that bet to invest in either tokens or NFTs, which are only speculative driven, right? So that's one way. That'll be an insight that you have formulated, or you have can't like, it's a lot deeper and a much longer conversation to get deep into what makes an ecosystem sustainable and grow, right? So I won't address that here. Probably will look like a economics class rather than anything else. The other way is, given the stage that all of you are at, and you're curious about it, why not come into these ecosystems and actually become a creator, contributor in one way or the other, right? So whether that's Decentraland, and if you are game developers or you develop 3D art, can you actually create a world for others to come and buy, right? If you are, a person who will look at creating different content on Sandbox, can you actually come into Axie Infinity, play the games in guilds where you don't invest your money and you are substituting your labor for actually getting payments out, right? Or can you find NFT projects, like, at least this is the area we are doing in ZionVerse, where actually we are giving you a lot of intrinsic value, but also you get some future value as well. And maybe you don't make the crazy 100x, but you are making 15, 20, 30% a year. And maybe that's the sort of returns that you are sort of happy with and keep. So that'll be my recommendation and strategy. If you feel you can get ahead of the speculative bubble than others, then great. But I think very, very few people will be able to get that edge and sustain it, rather than just being luck. But on a very long-term sustainable basis, for most people on this call, including me, I think we can become creators, and invest in things which are more intrinsic rather than just future value driven.
Yeah, I mean, you are right about this 15 to 30% gains that one can get. I mean, it is realistic. If 100 people are there and only the news comes for one person that he's gaining 100x, but the 99 gets a loss. Yeah, it's very real. So
Right.
I think my next question and my next doubt is, and what do you think about that? There are two metaverses, right? One is that Facebook is building, which you all know from the past 2 months, I guess. Facebook launched this metaverse and it is creating it. And the other metaverse that I think is from the decentralized part. Yeah. So can you share your thoughts on this, and which one is better, or what do you think which will gain more power in the future?
So yeah, like, obviously this is a big debate. Like Jack Dorsey also said about Web3, that all VCs are investing, and this is not the decentralized world that we wanted to create, and kicked up a huge discussion slash debate over the entire part. See, a lot of this depends on the community, frankly, right? Like, if at the end Facebook is able to convince the community that creating a world still created by Facebook without you being a true owner, and you getting that immersion from VR or XR or even just mobile first, is enough for you to be the next social network, then that's the world that actually ends up manifesting, right? From what I have seen so far, or at least my bet is that that will not be enough for the community, and that's the view and the bet that we are taking, and it will actually be the decentralized world that wins, because you will get that immersion, and that immersion maybe will take some time to be built, right? Like, can Facebook build that immersion faster than anyone else? Absolutely. They already have that technology. They're already way ahead of any other company in executing it at the scale they're doing. But do they have decentralization as their DNA? Absolutely not, right? So irrespective of whatever frameworks they follow, since it's not part of the company's DNA, that will never be part of the actual product itself, right? Um, and so this decentralized metaverse is, I believe, the community will value ownership, will value the fact that I choose what happens, and hence that'll be the world that actually gets formed, in my opinion, right? Like that's also the bet that we are taking, and why we are building the way we are building. But beyond sort of my business as well, I'll be really disappointed if all we end up doing is like creating a Facebook but in a 3D world, right? Like, I mean, that's it. That's what Facebook is building. That'll be really, really disappointing. Like, we really have a shot at changing a lot for how we interact with each other, and what we do with sort of the digital world, at least. So it'll be very, very disappointing personally as well if that's where we end up.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook is already gaining its monopoly in Instagram, WhatsApp. Like,
Yeah.
they are the monopolies in the social network.
Yep.
So my next thought on this is what are you doing from ZionVerse, and how are you helping the people to gain uh, that autonomy and that power in their hands, and what are the future plans of ZionVerse, and how it move forward? Yeah.
Sure. So, like I mentioned, our thesis is that the next Web3 social network is built on gaming. So, what we are building is a user generated games platform, which is, if you think about it, is a lot like a 3D voxel world like Minecraft or Roblox. It should be very easy for us to come and create our environment like it is already on Minecraft, to create your world using sort of different cubes. You can change different arts. So, you create your world, or you create a world for others to come and interact. You add gaming layers on top of it, and it's a user generated games platform, right? And I think that's essential for you to not only personalize the content that means a lot to you, i.e., my digital house, my digital garden, but also for you to have as much variety of content in gaming and the 3D world as possible. So that's one part. That's something we have been working on over the last 18 months, and we will look to launch it at the end of this year, right? So that's part one. Part two, even before, in a couple of months' time, we will be launching our first game, right? And the game will be like Axie Infinity, a play and earn game built through this engine that we have created. It'll be the game will be called Run Bhumi, based on the Kurukshetra game, because all our content is based on Indian culture, history, and mythology. And so in this game, you will have a 5v5 death match. Um, like, if you keep winning, you will be earning sort of in-game currency, which you can cash out for INR or for USDC as well, right? So that's the second part. And the last is, I also see NFTs as a great conduit for you to get access to a lot of DeFi strategies, right? And like I said, a lot of DeFi strategies we are focused on are, for me, very high returns but very low risk, right? So like what we did with Lakshmi NFT. So we did a Lakshmi NFT last month. We sold 560,000 US dollars worth of Lakshmi NFT. All of it got bought in India, which was a very, very big positive surprise for me. And every Lakshmi NFT gives you a staking reward, a fixed staking reward monthly for the next 12 months. And then you can convert your Lakshmi NFT to a 3D avatar and earn more gaming rewards through the game. And our idea would be to give you access to some of these strategies that we are already capitalizing on through our NFTs. So we will do an NFT sales, end of February, beginning of March, where it'll be, for a lack of better word, an investable NFT, where we are really selling you the intrinsic value of what is happening in the DeFi ecosystem to make 20, 30, 40% returns. None of them will give you the 100x. So, my idea has been very clear, and that's what our pitch has been with Lakshmi NFT as well. If you want 100x, it may happen with the Lakshmi NFT, but that's not why you should buy it. You will definitely make money by doing it, and that's the idea for us to launch these investable NFTs as well. So it's all decentralized. I think someone asked on the chat. The Lakshmi NFT is on the Polygon chain. We will finalize sort of the chain on which all the ZionVerse sort of games are built on, but it'll be connected to the Ethereum network. So it'll be one of the layer 2 protocols, and hopefully we can keep building it on Polygon itself.
Great, great. I mean, the user-generated games are really, it's like Roblox, like, right? It's like you can
Correct. So
play
yeah, so I
user-generated
think
games.
for people, yeah, you're absolutely right. So the way we see it is Minecraft is very easy to create, not possible to publish, because if you're Minecraft mobile, you don't even have an option to publish your content to others. If you're Minecraft Java, you can do it, but then you have to host it on your own servers, get access, no way for you to discover that apart from a few Discord servers or websites. So easy to create, tough to publish. Roblox is all Lua scripting, Roblox Studio to create games. We have created 5 games on Roblox in November 2020, right? Like it is probably 10 times more difficult to create games on Roblox than Unity. So very tough to create games, very easy to publish. So what we are building is easy to create, easy to publish.
Right, right. And how can we have our hands on these Lakshmi coins? As you said, they are releasing in February, right?
So no, the Lakshmi NFT is all sold out.
All
So
sold out. Okay.
we released 5,555 Lakshmi NFTs for 101 US DC each in December. They got all sold out, all of them in India. Like I said, we'll be releasing our next set of NFTs by Feb end and March, and hopefully doing more tiering with respect to entry points as well, so that more community can come into what we are doing.
All right, all right. I guess that's it from our side. Now we can have the Q&A session. You can look up the questions from the chat. I think I'll read them. One question keeps up occurring is how there was one this Philippines Axie Infinity question. How, like, what motivated the people there to play Axie Infinity, and how, I mean, what is the human behavior behind it? Why do people are playing these games? Like, it's very, what is the
Yeah, like
psychology
look,
behind it? Yeah, I just want to
look, the one best, the one uniform thing all throughout our history to get people to adopt something is extrinsic rewards, which are easiest to give now in terms of money, right? And tokens are just another way for you to distribute money. And the other part that sort of all of Web3 has done is they get this supply of tokens, and we suddenly feel that anything which is limited in supply has value because it's limited, right? So there is also this, like I said, there is this fear of missing out, FOMO sort of bubble that, oh, they're only 100, right? Like there are these, like I'm not a big fan of these ether rocks, right? They are literally rocks built on Ethereum mainnet, which people are like, oh, there are only 100 of them. CryptoPunks is 10,000. So they have to be even more valuable, right? So what has happened is, the reason people have gone to these platforms is the drive of money, right? B, the way they have been sustained is like you have a lot of real money gaming. That's actually the first product we did. So there is definitely some value to people coming and doing competition, which also has an economic angle tied to it from the very beginning. I believe there is an angle, but it seems like all of blockchain game is only targeting that one need, right? Like not everyone is going to make money out of these games, right? Because at the end of the day, they are a zero sum game, right? For someone to make a lot of money, someone else has to lose a lot of money, because for sure the platform is not losing, right? It's like people always saying, for casinos, the house always wins, the platform will always win, right? So they are taking money away. So for the users, it's actually a negative sum game. And overall, as a community of users, you will lose money, right? So that's the aspect. For some people that'll work. They're okay to spend $10, $100 to maybe have a little bit of enjoyment or entertainment, etc. And if that's the case, then it can sustain a little bit. Overall, I feel blockchain games need to also have a core economic drive, right? Like what is the economic value generation that is coming? So one part of the value generation which we are creating in ZionVerse, and I feel more games will be creating it, is what you do in Web2 games, right? Can I buy skins? Can I buy cosmetics? Can I actually upgrade myself faster? So what Supercell does is it actually sells you time, right? Like if you don't want to keep like spending like Clash of Clans, you can either spend 23 years never paying any money, or I think it's approximately $50,000 that if I buy and purchase gems and upgrade everything, I'll be maxed out in like whatever, in a minute or so, right? So you are substituting time for money. So that is actually economic value generation. You can get it free if you can spend the time, but some people will accelerate it. So that'll be another economic value, right? The third really big one would be that the likes of Amazon will come and sell goods, services on this platform. So you will earn commission from it, which gets redistributed in the entire community. And that'll be a huge value generator for the metaverse, right? That's really what at least we are playing at for ZionVerse. For us, this gaming component is actually putting the fundamental pillars and the foundation in. So we build a social network, and the real true value generation will happen when people start trading actual goods, services through the metaverse, and you facilitate it and take a commission for that facilitation, like Amazon does, or tons of these platforms do as well. So that's really where the superb or crazy amount of value gets generated for these metaverses, in my view.
All right, all right. One question also keeps popping up. How to start a career in Metaverse? What is the skill set required for it? Yeah.
So I think like a lot of you may have backgrounds in coding. I think some people ask what language to learn. I would say what I have seen is people who are very good at any JS frameworks, JavaScript frameworks will actually do really well. So if you are developing anything which is, Web3 UI based, you would still need to have good basics of React JS, Next.js, 3.js for interactive components. Even if you're doing Solidity, which is what you need to know to build smart contracts on the Ethereum network. If you have great JS knowledge, it's much easier for you to transition. If you want to go on the gaming side, right, where you want to work on the game engine, game physics, how that interaction happens, then C++ is a better foundation for you to actually start with. For people who are more interested in either animation or assets, start learning Blender, and start seeing what you can do with creation of 3D assets, with rigging of the models, with creating sort of animation, etc. For people who want to jump into game development, you should look at Unity or Unreal as your starting points to create these interactive sort of games. For people who are looking for marketing, right? Like we know that traditional marketing converted a lot, and now digital marketing has taken over. And with Web3, this is going to change again, because digital marketing presupposes that all the data is available, right? And all we have done is create a data funnel. You keep doing iterations like SEO, you keep doing iterations, you keep getting the data, and you keep improving your system, right? In the Web3 world, not all your users will be sharing the data, right? So A, you will have to figure out how to incentivize people to share data so that you can get your product better, your marketing better. And B, you will also have to know how to broadcast marketing and where to reach sort of communities. So marketing skill set is also changing quite a lot. So there are, like, if you're a finance person, what is the right way to invest in these crypto strategies is again a whole different gamut of what you're going to do compared to what people have learned in stock trading or for debt trading as well. So, like, all careers will need a different skill set of trading and knowledge base now.
Nice, sir. Also, sir, we have a question from Dhruv. He asked, like, how did you manage to give like this amount of returns on your Lakshmi NFT, like how you created returns on your end?
So I think someone asked the question that how are you giving 100x return? We are not
Yeah,
giving
right.
100x return.
No,
I
yeah.
was just mentioning that it may occur because like if ZionVerse as a platform becomes extremely valuable and we create all the value that we are talking about, and Lakshmi NFT is your way to access the platform, if you remain as a holder, then maybe 5, 6, 10 years down the line, that return will happen, right? And the reason it will happen is imagine it's like some part of what you own is like a access point and an entry point into the ZionVerse system. If you had the same thing with an Amazon, it'll actually have a lot of value if you came into Amazon, right? However, the return we are giving people, which is the fixed monthly returns, the way we generate it is we do market neutral strategies. So one of the most popular ones, which we're also going to introduce for our next NFTs, are perpetual futures of Ethereum versus Ethereum spot, right? So that's a you arbitrage the perpetual futures versus spot, and there is no risk whether Ethereum goes up or Ethereum goes down. Doesn't really matter. You are gonna still make your constant returns on that strategy. So people who have, if you want to know about the strategy, the best way to know about it is equity index futures versus underlying stocks, because that in India and even outside the world is a multi-billion dollar sort of market where they're actually arbitraging it and trading it, and the returns for the same in cryptocurrencies are massively higher. That's, by the way, how all platforms like Vault or CoinDCX give you so much return on your USDC, right, as a fixed deposit as well. So we have done something similar. Okay, I'll probably answer the question of someone who keeps asking how do I buy Lakshmi NFT on secondary platform, because I can see there are too many messages. So the only way to buy it on a secondary platform is OpenSea. To get the verified links of OpenSea, please join our Discord. The Discord channel is discord.gg/ZionVerse. Under that, you have a verified link. You can ask on any channel what is the official OpenSea link. You can go and buy it from there, right? That's the only way to buy it today in the secondary market.
Thank you, sir. And also, we have one more question. Like, why can't an interactive site work on a model of Web 2? Like, can't we have a metaverse, like interactive site, which is owned by a big company and is following the ad model and not a Web 3 model?
So, okay. So I think if there is one, I hopefully think like if there's one thing all of you should take away for Web3 is Web3 is equal to immersion plus permissionless plus ownership plus integrated economics, right? So maybe that's just the formula. So now
Yeah.
if you have an interactive site, you have probably solved for immersion, right? But you have not solved for permissionless, because are you going to allow people to take their data to some other platform? Question one. Okay, let's say you also solve for that, but now you're creating different standards. By default, in web with the HTTP standard and the HTTPS protocols, you actually have a standardized protocol for you to share information. But are you going to allow people to share all the information outside? That's other question. Maybe if you do, then you become permissionless. Are you allowing ownership, right? How will you build that ownership which is decentralized? Now, to build ownership which is decentralized, you would today the only way to, or the easiest way to do it is on the blockchain, because the blockchain is nothing but a consensus protocol for you to, for all of us to agree as to how this data is going to get validated. So for ownership, you will have to come onto the blockchain, and lastly, to integrate economics, you will have to do tokenomics, right? So in essence, if you're going to build Web3 and do ownership and economics, you will have to do what Web3 looks like. There is, like on Web2, there is no choice to do it today.
So, what are all these career opportunities that one could seek for in this domain, especially?
Yeah, so like I said, the one opportunity, like become a smart contract developer. The other is you can obviously become a Web3 UI developer, be good at React.js, Next.js, 3.js, understand how to integrate Web3 contracts. Another place to look at is called Moralis. Moralis.io is a great place for you to kickstart They have given a lot of frameworks and a lot of starting points for whether you want to develop smart contracts or start developing dApps, decentralized applications. Like I said, if you want to do marketing, it's going to be a completely different wave. Like, how do you form your community, right? So if you're doing this, maybe either do a Reddit forum that you start or a Discord channel. Those are the two ways. Can you create a community, maintain a community, and keep growing it? Is there a way that you can encourage others to grow the community on the community's behalf, so there is a flywheel created? That will be the best way to start doing something in marketing and learning tons of jobs that will come there. 2D artists, 3D artists, animators, game developers. Like game development, I think will get another massive boost, because like I said, the next set of interactions will be very game like, right? So if you know Unity, you know Unreal, that skill set will be highly in demand, according to me. And a lot of this talent, by the way, will come from India, right? So the wave we saw of web developers in Web 1, Android developers and iOS developers from India in Web 2, I think we see the same wave coming for Unity and Unreal developers in Web 3. So, if someone is very entrepreneurial, this is also a good time to start the equivalent of Infosys for Web3, where that's the business, right? You have an army of Unity and game developers in India, and you are creating all these frameworks, infrastructure, and products for the world, because there is still a massive amount of cost advantage that you get from India, particularly in gaming, right? So that's the other area that people should focus on.
Also, sir, do you think that there will be a Web3 will have a subscription based model, because for companies that create that sort of an environment?
Yeah, so like many companies already do, right? Like, so
Yeah.
there's Morales.io, or Pinata is for people who are looking at the equivalent of what you do with AWS, where you put a lot of your data and media. The equivalent for Web3 is uh, Pinata, whatever the pronunciation is, Pinata. So Pinata is a cloud service which is based on IPFS, which is Interplanetary File System. Um, that is a decentralized way to actually store your media. They are already on a subscription service as well. So in terms of monetization, see, we are also moving. There will be a lot of transition from the Web 2 to Web 3 world as well, right? And also, by the way, offline to on-chain world is also going to be a massive opportunity. Like, we saw this massive opportunity to get offline to online, the O2O models, like whether you see PhonePe or DotPay or BharatPay. In particular, BharatPay and DotPay were doing a lot of O2O. Paytm does a lot of this O2O to bring digital, offline shops to online. There'll be a lot of businesses to be done to do offline to on-chain, right? So, like, can you do, like, I know a company which is doing supply chain in like whether it's liquor or food or steel, where can you apply blockchain and validation to make sure that the quality of the product is tracked from where you mine the ore to where you create the iron and then your steel. Can you track that entire supply chain and make sure that no one can, you are able to now assess the supply chain in a decentralized manner, and because it's decentralized, no one person can change that quality at their own will, right? So that also helps the communities. There is a lot of opportunity in that offline to on-chain sort of business models as well.
Yes, sir. And also, sir, someone asked, like, why will someone buy their NFT for like $1 million? Like, what gives it that worth?
Well, to start with, if you only make it one NFT, it's just one, so it should be very valuable. But jokes apart, I think, look, like I said, if the entire idea of the NFT is that you're selling the art as a collectible, then really the value is, why does somebody value that art? Or have you created a reason that people believe that others have a value? So I want to buy it today quickly, and then someone else will buy it much higher from me for, like, because this has is a great status symbol, and then someone else will buy it as well. So have you created this speculative buzz? So it's more of a marketing problem than it is a product design problem, right? So if you can solve the marketing angle of it, you're probably able to sell the NFT, and which is also why it's tough to see how this sustains, right? Because marketing is supposed to accelerate the value that you're creating and to make people aware and give the right value proposition to people. It's not supposed to create value out of thin air, or at least that's what I believe, right? Like you suddenly have nothing of value, you are able to do a great marketing, and people suddenly feel, oh, like this is nothing of value, and now it's very valuable, and that is happening. So for whoever wants to sell their one NFT for $1 million, you have a marketing puzzle to solve, not a product design puzzle. It doesn't matter what that NFT is. If you have the right marketing message, you probably will be able to do it.
Yes, sir. And also, sir, can you suggest some introductory resources, from which like people can study, because we all are like college students, so maybe we can just have to begin learning about metaverse. How do we invest? Being college students, how do we go about it?
Okay, let me do that right now. I have a few resources. I'm actually gonna put it on the chat here. Is that okay? Right. So
Yes,
I've done
yes.
that. The first link. Okay. Obviously, the H got missed of the HTTPS, so I'll resend it. So these are great links for people to start. The startup school is Anderson Horowitz, one of the really big VCs anyway, but they were the first large VC in the world to take the jump of crypto 3-4 years ago and dedicatedly start investing in crypto. It'll be a much more of a structured learning program. Great introduction, particularly for people who today have very little knowledge about this space. Matthew Ball has been talking about metaverse for a really long time. I love reading his articles. So definitely, people should actually focus on what he says. Similarly, with Eric Peckham, he's a journalist, has written a lot about the metaverse and gaming and how this Web3 world is coming. So it's a little more of a qualitative perspective angle that you should get. Lastly, this Substack that I have sent of Lisa Tan, that's probably the last you should read, along with Not Boring, like in this order of how you would go about, because they talk a lot more in depth about whether that's Ethereum or Axie Infinity Game and what tokenomics looks like. So it'll be good for you to get broad base from the crypto school, Matthew Ball, Eric Peckham, and then move to Lisa Tan and the Not Boring newsletter, which is a little more in depth. So that's the way I would tackle these two layers of information.
So many of our attendees did have this doubt of that even is it sustainable? The Web3, is it even going to be sustainable?
Is Web3 going to be sustainable?
Yeah.
I guess maybe is the question more that is cryptocurrency prices sustainable? Because like asking whether Web3 is sustainable is to ask whether internet is sustainable, right? Like, yeah, of course it is, right? Like we already are doing digital interactions, and like if anything, like for me, my digital life in terms of percentage of hours I spend waking up is massive in terms of what I do, like with some digital device and digital information. So all of this is obviously sustainable because we're already spending time, money on it, right? Like all your transactions today are predominantly digital, right? So everything has moved there already. Web3 is the next evolution of it. If the question is, are cryptocurrency prices sustainable? It's interesting. I think someone asked, like, there are too many blockchains, what happens? And yeah, it's interesting, right? Like the interesting part we are tackling is, um, does it need every ecosystem which comes in Web3 to launch their own token, right? Like, is that a necessary part? To be honest, we are actually thinking of the same thing as a design. Right now, my answer is I don't think it's necessary for every digital ecosystem to launch a token for people to use it, right? Like for example, at ZionVerse, the next NFTs we will launch, we will actually not have any crypto need for you to buy the NFTs, right? Like what we did with the Lakshmi NFT is you buy USDC, with USDC only you could buy an NFT, right? We would actually enable people to just buy it only directly through INR or dollars, right? and whatever returns you get will also be in your INR and dollars directly. Because I feel that it's an unnecessary layer to add. They will definitely be decentralized. We would need to do certain crypto payments for gas fees for that validation, and we will handle that as a company. So obviously there will be a need for us to buy the tokens for that validation in the backend, but that's the equivalent to what we do when we pay for AWS if we are a Web2 app anyway, right? So, so I think the question about whether cryptocurrency prices can only go up as adoption increases is fundamentally going to depend on this question, which is, do we necessarily, is the only way to access Ethereum for someone to own Ethereum if you were going to play the Ethereum network? That question is, to me, unanswered so far, and my bet is I'm not sure, right? Like I think some part of it will happen. Like I'm a big believer in Ethereum. This is not financial advice. Like I'm probably the biggest believer of all the ecosystems out there in Ethereum and then Bitcoin, etc. Because I do feel that Ethereum is almost like an ability to own Android or Java, and it's open source, obviously. But to eventually access that system, you would need to pay gas fees, right? So today, the intrinsic value is not that great, to be honest, right? But if you have the view that, look, this is going to be the future, there is a speculative punt to be taken that maybe there is a lot of money to be made, which if you are okay to speculate, is a token that I would buy. I have it. Again, this is not financial advice. Great. If we could maybe take one last question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Like, we'll just end it now. Maybe you can tell about your plans, what you have in 10 years down the line, and how you felt about this entire session, and then we'll give it our end.
Oh, great! I think the session was awesome. I think love the fact that there were so many people interested and curious about Web3. So I think this is um, what we all should need to encourage. Whether you believe in Web3 or not, this is definitely, in my opinion, a big technological upgrade that is coming to what we already have, and consider it as an upgrade rather than suddenly us moving to something we don't know about, right? It's the natural evolution. And my only other words to all of you would be, remain curious. Please go and read as much as you can about it, listen to videos, podcasts, etc. Do your research and then come to your own conclusion, whether you believe it or not. But don't, like, according to me, this world is changing now, right? Or it's probably already has started changing. So don't wait, right? Like, form your opinion and then act accordingly from there.
Great. So, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a really, really great session. I'm glad that I got the opportunity to interact with you. I'm really glad that I just got this opportunity. And also, thanks to Push sir. He actually let me do the honors. And also, Divya did a great job. And thank you, all the attendees as well. We're glad that you joined in. We had good participation, good, decent participation today.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. And great session. Excellently organized. And hope I could talk to a lot of you soon. Bye.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Guys, just follow our Instagram handles. They are in the chat. And good
Cool.
night. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, everyone,
Thank
joining.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Ran successfully on online